This conference will now be recorded.
Great. Thank you guys all for coming in on this first time trial of doing the Meetup online. Obviously, everybody is fully aware of the epidemic that's kind of shaking every family. Everybody's concerned. A lot of tech meetups are being canceled. So we thought, why not? Let's just do something remote and also be respectful of the space who were concerned about bringing people from outside of the company over to the space. So with that in mind, we're giving it a shot. You guys are safe where you are, hopefully, and it works out for everyone. First and foremost, let me introduce myself to you real quick. My name is Richard, and I know some of you already has been into the meetups, so thank you for coming back. Others might be new to this, and if you are, I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about who I am, my company, and also the Meetup community that we've built so far. Okay. I am Richard. The name of my company is VBOUT.com. I'm going to have a little bit more to say about it as we go along. But in a nutshell, VBOUT is a marketing technology stack, primarily a lead generation stack that helps marketing teams generate leads and nurture leads. That's the core of what we do. So we do email marketing for our clients. They use our platform to execute that. Automation, landing pages, all that stuff are built and hosted on our platform. Okay. I am the CEO. I founded this baby about 5-6 years ago, and that's my 10-year plan at least. So I'm pretty set on that. On my spare time, what I like to do is contribute back to the community. Right, that's part of like my Meetup vision. And over time, over the past 6 years, it's almost at the same time that I founded VBOUT, I was able to kind of harvest or grow the community to about 15,000 members. That's combined between all the different meetups that I run. And I ultimately strive for a couple of things. One is at least you learn 1 or 2 new things every time you attend our meetups, whether it's physical in New York City, or now that we're doing some online. 2 is to actually meet somebody new that you might find interesting along the way. This is why we're going to do introductions and such. And then if you are able to sort of teach someone else something new, that's an additional bonus, right? That's great. So these are the 3 things that I strive for. And every time we do the meetup, if I was successful doing these 3 in one event for each one of you, I think I've hit a home run. Okay. As you can see, we don't charge for these meetups. We don't actually have sponsors. We sponsor it ourselves. And this is as part of like saying back to the community, thank you. We want to learn more from you, and we want to teach you what we've learned, which is what we spend a lot of our time and effort pioneering the email marketing space, the marketing technology space, to be specific. All right, so for today's agenda, what we're going to do members introductions. So what I'll do is every one of you is going to have to go and tell us in maybe 20 seconds your name, your company, and what you do. I know this is an online meetup, guys. It's I would like to make it a little bit more personal. So I would love to hear your voice. I would love to see you if you can activate the camera. That's a huge plus as well. And this way we can have some sort of a more engaged online event. I don't want to call it a webinar, although somehow it is. It's more of an event that we took physical part of it and we're moving it online. Okay. So it's going to be about 20 seconds per person, your name, company, and what you do, something exciting, whatever you want to share, right? That's your open floor. Then we're going to do a startup pitch. Today we have Sama Jashani from Down to Dash. She's going to be presenting. We're going to give her feedback. Then we're going to do email marketing in 2020. This is really everything we've put together over years and how email has evolved and how you can maximize your results of email marketing now in 2020. And then we'll do general Q&A. So anybody have questions, they could definitely just put it in the chat box. Okay. And after this, I might have a little bit of time. I'll show you how some of the stuff that I'm going to teach you can be implemented, whether you do it on VBOUT or whether you do it elsewhere. But I'm going to put it in the framework of VBOUT as it is the technology that we've built. So this way you have some practical view on what we're doing. Okay. All right, so the first part of this is going to be going through the introductions. I'm gonna call up on your name, please. I hope you can activate the camera, and don't be shy. This is really an online open forum. We're very cool. Everybody here is awesome. So I'm gonna start calling you guys, and we can start with Anna Palm. Hey Anna.
I have to. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yes, my name is Ana Palm, and I work with a Brazilian company. It's almost like a insurance, I mean, a health insurance, and I'm thinking about doing a lot of more um, email, and I just wanted to learn a little bit.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna.
Hmm.
All right, so we can move to Jason. Hey, Jason. Jason Castro.
How's it going? Jason Castro. First time attending an event actually, so it's kind of awkward that's video.
It is.
But I run a full service marketing consultancy.
Okay.
So just trying to be more involved in the community, see what's out here, see who's
Good.
attending and whatnot.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Welcome. All right, we have Hadba. Hadba, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, how are you? I'm Hadba from VBOUT. Well, I'm very happy to be part of this meetup because I always like send emails for the attendees and help you Rich with the preparations for this meetup, but I could never like attend. So I'm so happy, guys, to be among you.
And thank you, Hadba, for helping on this. As you guys know, it takes a lot of effort to kind of organize, communicate with the space, set these things up, come up with the topic, put the things together, the slides, the speakers. So it's a lot of effort. So Hadba really kind of puts a lot of these pieces together. You can't hear it. All right, we can move on to Mick. Hey, Mick. I don't have a last name, so hopefully you know yourself.
Hi, let me turn the.
Mick, you muted yourself. Sorry, Mick, we lost you, I think. I don't know if you can unmute. That would be great. Here we go.
Oh, there we go. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Actually, I'm just outside of Washington, D.C., so it's really terrific to be able to be a part of your meetup and not just don't happen to be in New York at the moment. So thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Pleasure, Mick. Tell us about yourself.
Former director of marketing for a major Japanese corporation. I now have my own company. We do consulting for global trade.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Mick. All right, we're going to move on to Lily Greeno. Hey, Lily. Lily, if you can unmute yourself, please, that would be great. All right, maybe Lily is having technical difficulties. Maybe if you can reactivate it, I'll come back to you. Okay, so we can go to Al Sharif. Hey, Al.
Hi, Rich. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Pretty good. My name is Al Sharif. My company is Cronin Cards. This is about, I guess, my fourth or fifth meetup of this group, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. We currently do paper greeting cards. We've been pretty successful on Amazon and on our website, and I'm particularly interested in the email marketing because we are, in the next year, we're planning on digitizing our greeting cards. So we are trying to think through carefully the delivery vehicle for those digitized cards.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back over and over, Al. I appreciate it. It's great that you're finding value in these meetups. All right, Sema, I'm going to skip you. I know you have a whole segment, so you can tell us more about yourself. I'll move on to George. Hey, George.
Hello, Richard. Hello, guys. This is George Fallah, a marketing manager from VBOUT, and I'm also happy to be part of this meetup. I hope you can hear me because the internet connection is a bit slow here. And of course, I will be helping Richard with the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, George, for coming over as well. All right, moving on to Jim Tormey. Hey, Jim.
Okay. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Jim.
Well, congrats for letting the show go on. Every other event I was scheduled for this week is canceled. My name is Jim Tormey. My company is Jesse James Creative. We're a digital marketing agency, and we're sort of pivoting into becoming more of a SaaS company. We've built a custom CRM/ERP tool that we're primarily selling into associations, nonprofits, and local governments. I'm very interested in the email side of things.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jim. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Cool. All right, we have Ali. Hey, Ali. I don't have a last name for you, Ali, so you're muted as well. I don't know if you're able to activate it. Okay, maybe not. I'll move on. I have XI. I don't know. It's someone is also muted. I don't know if you can please introduce yourself, unless you want to remain anonymous.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Rich. Thank you so much for organizing the meeting. So, my name is Z. I am a completely outsider. I'm new to this field, completely new. So I went to the meeting like a few weeks ago, and I thought it was great. So this is why I came back and really want to learn like a lot more about this field.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming back, Z. Cool. We have David. Hey, David. No last name as well.
Hey, I'm David. I'm launching a company to allow people to buy real estate online and just looking to meet people in marketing.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, David. We have Fel, F-E-L. It's funny how GoToMeeting names people, right? So apologies if the names are not coming through right. But Fel, are you with us?
Hi, yes, I'm here. I am a UX designer, and I work as a consultant right now. I'm just here to learn about marketing.
Okay. Awesome. Well, is Fel your name?
Felicia.
Felicia. Okay. Sorry, Felicia. Thanks for coming as well. Is it your first time?
Yes, this is my first time.
Okay. Cool. We have Priyanka. Hey, Priyanka.
Hi, this is Priyanka.
Priyanka, yes. How are you? We're just doing introductions. I know you came in a bit after. So tell us about you, your name, company, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Priyanka. I work in Westchester, New York, in a consulting firm in energy and chemicals. I'm also pursuing a part-time MBA with Stern Business School right now.
Good. Awesome. First time to the meetup?
Yes.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we have Andreas Fanelli. Hey, Andreas. You're muted. If you can unmute, that would be great. And if you're having issues, we can come back to you. Anybody we haven't covered who just joined? Okay, great. So guys, if you have any questions about the other attendees, you can use the chat bubble. There's a chat bubble that's under the GoToMeeting. Please feel free to ask. I know somebody who asked about what is the greeting card website. David is asking. So please feel free to share your link. That's Al Sharif. Hey, Al, if you're there, can you please type in your website for David? And by the way, guys, I'm really open to seeing how we can make this more social. Like there's no element of networking necessarily here, like we do when we do the physical meetups, right? So if you have some suggestions, if you want to leverage the chat, if you want to chat directly with the person, feel free to use that chat bubble available under the GoToMeeting, okay? Awesome. Cool.
All right, am I good to go?
You are good. We hear you, Andreas.
Yes. Sorry about that. I just had to switch everything over to my headset. That way we didn't get no feedback. That would have been pretty awful.
Good.
So yeah, this is cool that you're doing this. For everybody in the room that doesn't know me, I've been to a number of these events, the in-person events. I am a digital marketer who works with various small businesses. I typically focus on paid social, marketing strategy, market research for products and product development. So yeah, I just enjoy coming to the events to kind of hear startup ideas, get a feel for the startup pitches that are out there, and learn about new technologies and things that are going on in the industry.
Awesome. Well, Andreas, welcome over and over. We have a pleasure having you every time. So all right, so guys, I came up with an idea right now. Why don't you put in your LinkedIn profile in the chat so we can probably all connect with each other if you guys are open to that. I think that would be a good opportunity. So put your LinkedIn and your website, and even if your email as well. This way we can kind of get them right after the event. All right, so I'll put in mine. And I'll share my LinkedIn in one moment. All right, awesome. Cool. Andreas, I'm gonna mute you with all due respect, okay? Just to keep the feedback.
Yep.
Okay, I think you muted yourself, thanks. Okay, so now we come into the second part of this, which is the startup pitch. Today we have Sama Jashani from Down to Dash. Sama's gonna present to us her startup and what she does and ask us any questions, whether she wants feedback, she wants questions about marketing, customer acquisition. This is an open forum for you, Sama, so feel free to ask us whatever you want, okay? You're gonna have about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for having me here.
Pleasure, Sama.
Okay.
You're gonna have about 5 minutes to pitch and maybe about 10 minutes feedback. So this is all yours, right? Whatever questions you have, please let everybody give you the feedback as much as possible, so you don't take a lot of time answering those questions. We get that sometimes, okay? And other than that, I will pass you over the screen in 1 second. Okay. All right. Sama, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just 1 second. I'm just going to my.
No worries.
Can you see my screen?
I do actually, yes.
Okay, I'll just go from. Just 1 second. Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Sama, and I'm the co-founder of Down to Dash. So we're a New York City Soho-based startup, and we're basically an app to meet people based on activities. We have the MVP live, but we're launching a new version. We've revamped it, and we're launching a new version in the next 2 weeks. So you can post a specific plan, like play soccer on Thursday at 5 p.m. or go for trekking on the weekend, or whatever you want to do, be spontaneous. And then other people in your location based on age can request to join. And then you can chat, group chat, or you can discover and post events around you. One feature that we're super excited about in the new version is curated plans. So we realize that users are lazy and sometimes they don't know what they want to do. So on every Monday, we're going to ask users your availability for the week. So say you tell me you're free on Friday night at 8 p.m. and you want to meet in Union Square. So our technology will automatically create a plan for you, like whatever you have in common. Play ping pong at Spin Midtown, or go bowling to Bowlmore Times Square. So basically, like between 3 to 5 people will be selected based on their availability, preferences, and the technology will automatically create a plan for you. So really excited about this feature. And besides that, we also do events ourselves. So we're doing a meditation event April 1st, speed networking, bowling, table topics, and we also do business tech events like an investor event and a VC panel event. So it's, like I said, it's a free app on the App Store and Google Play, one word, Down to Dash. And we also collaborate with people on events. And if you're interested in getting in touch with me, sama@downtodash.com. I mean, yeah, this was more of like a product pitch, I guess, than a startup pitch, but I can answer any questions about anything.
All right, thank you, Sama. Are you launched right now? Fully launched?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we launched, we have the MVP live, the minimum viable product. We also raised some funding and then we revamped the app. So we're launching the new version in 2 weeks.
Okay, how big is your team?
That's where we're so it's my co-founder and I. We have 3 people on the tech in India, and we have 2 people who are on part-time interns who help us for our events.
Okay, awesome. Guys, anybody have questions? You can definitely just unmute yourself and go ahead.
I do have one question. So, you mentioned that you're introducing a new feature to actually create these like curated plans for people.
Sure.
Do you see the entire product going into more of a direction of bringing events to the person? Is that a feature set that you're going to try to build out, or are you going to build out other features beyond just that feature that kind of, I guess, expand the overall possibilities?
Yeah, so the new feature, great question. The new feature I said wasn't our only focus. Like I said, there's also the user generated plans thing where a user can say, I want to do this on this date, this time, and other users can join. So I wouldn't necessarily say our focus is bringing events to users as such. I mean, there is an event section and events is part of it, but the focus is more user generated plans, more like a user saying, oh, I have time on Friday evening, so might as well do check out a museum or go trekking. And what if your friends are busy finding someone else or a few other people to do it with?
Okay. So I know that there are like
So that's really our focus.
I know there are certain types of apps that do that where they kind of try to get people to combine into different plans together. They're usually more focused from the ones I've seen. I'm not too familiar with them. I know that there's ones for like learning and different types of things. Do you want to head towards a specific niche? Is it just sort of like hanging out type stuff, or are you like how are you focusing on that side of things?
No, actually, at least so far, we don't want to head towards any niche because the feedback we collected, one of the things our users love the most is variety, and that's why the name also Down to Dash, because it's leaving it up to the user to post whatever they want. And we want to kind of keep it as that with variety because sometimes you're a vegan looking to connect with other vegans, and when it comes to sports, there's just so much and so many things to do, especially in a city like NYC. So we don't really want to restrict it, at least right now. We want to keep it broad and leave it to users to post whatever they want.
Okay, so in that sense, it's almost kind of like Meetup, just not as formal, not as group oriented. It's
Exactly.
more like person to person.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
almost like you're
sometimes
creating the
we
groups,
explain
on the fly, right? So it's pretty much like interest groups, grouping interests.
I would say it's a more user generated informal casual version of Meetup for sure. But there is definitely, I mean, if I would have to pick one platform that's the most similar, it would be definitely be Meetup. But so what we do is we actually partner with meetups, and sometimes we tell meetup organizers that what if someone doesn't want to go for the meetup or event alone, so they can find a buddy on Down to Dash to go for the meetup or event.
Mm.
Okay, cool. Mhm. You know, Meetup had the version of that at some point where they were doing event-centric meetups. So if you have an event happening, you would actually just create an event. You don't have to have a meetup or a group or anything like that. And if somebody's looking for, let's say, ping pong, they
Really?
will join. Yeah, but I don't know if they just shut it down or it didn't take off, or they didn't know how to market it, because Meetup by itself as an interface it's a mess. So it could be the latter. I'm suspecting it's just an interface problem at that point. It was a few years back though, like 4 or 5 years.
That's interesting.
Anybody else has any questions, guys? Any feedback? Who would use this?
Well, I'm definitely interested in it just because I'm always trying to find people with similar interests. That's part of the reason why I use Meetup. Um, I'm always looking for professional groups, but then there's also kind of like personal interests that I have that especially things. One example I think of is there's a group that I frequently play with in Brooklyn, and I found out about them through Meetup. Now, there's no way that would have happened without the internet because it was such a niche thing
Right.
that I definitely see the value in something like what you're creating. I'm just kind of curious. There's a lot that's out there. No matter what no matter what industry you're in at this point, if you're doing something with the internet and people and groups, social media, there's so many different products out there because everyone's just kind of feeling out what can be done, what people are willing to get into and not get into. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to check the app out. It definitely sounds interesting.
Awesome.
Sum
Thank
up,
you.
pull
Yeah,
up
like
the
I
app
said, right?
page. Put up the app page so they could see it.
Sure. I will. One second. Mm.
So also there's obviously Facebook is putting a lot of emphasis on
I'll put the
Facebook
link
groups.
and I'll.
Yeah, you can put the link there so people can follow the sign up page. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm.
Awesome. Anybody has any questions for Sama as well, guys? Any feedback? I know most of you must have used something in the past when it comes to organizing events and attendees. Mhm. Okay, Jason, go ahead.
So what's your current business model? Like, where are you getting your revenue from?
Great question. So, firstly, we did raise funding too. We raised like a pre-seed round, and also we are monetizing through events. So we have events every week or so, and we sell tickets, and we sell like sponsorship tables and sponsors. For example, we're doing like especially the big business events. We had a founder event, and we're doing a VC event with like 4 VCs, and we have like 100+ people who come to our events. So right now, the only way we've been monetizing is events, but that's definitely not a future strategy. We want to integrate it within the app where other events are posting on the app, and kind of like an Eventbrite model where we take 20 to 30% commission on any event or experience booked through the app. And then we'll also introduce premium accounts for users and monetize using data.
Got it. So if I'm understanding a little better, you ultimately want to become something like an Eventbrite meets Tinder, I guess.
Yeah, that's a very good understanding.
You can use that for your
Yeah.
pitch if you.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. I like it.
Follow-up question. Just to build on it, so it makes sense to work with events and larger companies for your profit model, but have you thought about reaching out to and partnering with influencers since you're trying to get on the local level and get into people's, I guess, they're like these smaller communities. Influencers can really drive people to these specific events, if anything.
We actually haven't done that yet, but as we launched a new version in the next 2 weeks, we were thinking of starting to get into that. And if you do have any tips about influencer marketing, would love to chat because we haven't really done that before. But um, yeah, we are kind of looking for help with that aspect.
That's great. That's great. Did you put your profile, Jason, your LinkedIn profile, so we can connect with you?
Yeah, my LinkedIn's there. I'll add my email as well at any time.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Definitely helps.
My
It's
email too.
Alden.group. Anybody here does influencer marketing, guys? Or know someone that does influencer marketing?
I have connections with influencers. I've grown my own personal account to above 10K as well, but you really want to get into like 100K for apps.
Got it.
Yeah.
We're looking for someone to partner up on for a course we're building. So we're building a module on influencer marketing, teaching people how to do it and so on. So we'd love to connect with you. Perhaps there's some opportunity there if you know someone interested. It's a module, maybe like 45 minutes to 1 hour. We'll keep a mental note of that. Awesome. All right, guys, we'll take one more question if anybody have any. Anybody has a question for Sama?
This is Jim. One thing I was going to say is having gone to a lot of meetups and different groups, I think one of the holes in this market is legitimately curated things. Like you go to Eventbrite, you put in, you know, tech or whatever, social, and you get a bunch of semi-random things, and then inevitably the next morning you're like, oh, there's the 3 things I really would have liked to have done. So the algorithms, I think, are just really shitty on Meetup and Eventbrite. So personally, that would help a lot if people could really figure out what actually makes sense and not just be throwing darts at the wall all day like Groupon.
That's a good point.
Totally agree.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Sama, thanks a lot for your pitch. I think there's a potential for the product, obviously.
Thank you.
The co-organizing, kind of getting together, it's a huge thing online. And I can even think of this beyond just doing fun things. It could be, you know, for probably more involved things like overseas right now. There's a lot of stuff going down when it comes to overthrowing governments and stuff like that. So people can probably organize this stuff like they would do on Facebook. So adding some level of security to it might help. But that's great. Thank you for the pitch, Sama.
Yes. Yes, I forgot to mention phone number verification and identity card verification in the next update. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Security is key.
Thank you. Yeah, it is, for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna take over the mouse from you here. Okay, guys, let me know if you see my screen. Good. So we're gonna get into the topic of the day, which is email marketing in 2020. During the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And George, you can stop me, or I mean, because it's a small crowd, you can just go ahead and stop me anytime to ask any questions. Okay. And at the end,
Sure.
if I have some time, I will show you some of the stuff that you can do on VBOUT, but you can take that knowledge and implement it anywhere. This is not only VBOUT specific knowledge. So the number one question that we get is email marketing dead, right? Has it changed? Do people open emails anymore? And the answer is no, it's not dead. It's actually still one of the top driving force for conversions, and there's a lot of potential. So what has changed? From a volume perspective, the amount of business emails being sent daily, combined with the personal emails, as of now, they're north of 293,000. And by 2023, it's expected to reach 347 billion. I'm sorry, it's not 1,000 billion. 347 billion emails daily. That's how many emails get sent daily, and that's between personal and business. The average user or the average person actually gets around 130 emails per day that are a combination of spam and actually valid emails. Okay. So with that, you know, we went out and we spoke to some of the pioneers in the industry, and they all have very common answers. Email is becoming more relevant. So people want to get emails that are relevant to their interests, to their own, I would say, persona. And that's kind of one of the main forces for segmentation and doing all that stuff in email. Email is becoming more and more personal, which is personalization across the board is super important. And we spoke to the folks at Mailjet where they trying to focus a lot on personalizing the experience of the user, not only by putting an email or a name or a phone number, but also to perhaps personalize the block of content inside an email. So there's a lot of effort being put in into executing personalized content with an email. We met with SendGrid. They told us that it's all about protecting the recipients from unwanted content, and they don't. ESPs. When I say ESPs, I mean email service providers. They actually don't care about us, right? We're marketing people for a lot of segments in the community. We're actually the bad guys, except we're not the bad guys. So the ESPs of the world are trying to protect recipients from unwanted content. And this is why you're probably seeing a lot of the built-in stuff within apps, unsubscribe from this company because you haven't opened an email for the last X amount of days or month or something like that. So protecting the inbox of the customer is probably key when it comes to Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, and all these ESPs. Finally, email marketing is not dead, it's just evolving. And this is why we have to evolve with it. And there's a few things that we really focus on when it comes to email. And I'm going to share with you these 5-6 points that we actually implement every time we run campaigns, right? And I'm telling you this working with thousands of companies who had either no email activity or they had really bad email hygiene. So they were sending tons of spam, there was no segmentation, nothing done, and moving them from 1 to 2% open rates upwards of 20 to 30% open rates in some cases. So this is really the top 5 to 6 things that you need to focus on when implementing email. The first thing we focus on every time you want to start an email campaign is understanding the technical jargon. And I'm going to try to explain this as that needs to be set up every time you send an email from VBOUT, from MailChimp, HubSpot, it doesn't matter. And these what we call the SPF and the DKIM records. Okay, you can think about these almost like an ID. One of them is your passport. Let's say the DKIM is the passport and the SPF is the driver license. Every time you send an email to somebody, they're checking your IDs in return to see if you have these IDs set up properly. And some of them, they have policies in place. They say if, let's take one of you guys here, let's take VBOUT. If I'm trying to send you an email and I don't have my IDs, SPF and DKIM set up, the recipients or you guys might say, you know what, we're not gonna let you in, okay? And that's what we call the DMARC policy. The policy is the recipient's end dictating if we're gonna be let through or we're gonna bounce back or be quarantined or rejected. Okay. So just knowing that every time you're gonna start an email program, you have to verify your domain and you have to add on your domain DNS a couple of records that verifies they're authentic sender. Okay. This is actually a lot simpler than it looks. It's literally a couple of records. You take them, you add them on a DNS as an SPF, and you're good to go. Finally, here, setting up your DMARC policy yourselves as well. We've seen this fluctuate in results, right? We've seen companies who do really good when they set up DMARC, primarily because a lot of these companies are shifting towards proper setup or posture checkup. So DMARC is not a must to send emails, but we know that a year from now or a couple of years from now, you're gonna have to have DMARC in place. So doing it from now will probably save you long-term effort. And if I would share with you a quick snapshot, let me just show you how these things work on Gmail side. I paused my screen for on purpose. All right. All right, so if you guys look at these signatures from Google, they literally check the SPF and the DKIM record of the sender. And if they have things set up properly, they pass, right? So these are critical items in confirming the first rule of sending email, which is proper technical setup, okay? And there's also the DMARC policy, which is not apparent here, but some of the emails actually do include it. Not sure if I can show you example here. Let's just take this one as an instance. Okay, so you see that at LinkedIn obviously have a DMARC policy set up. So the difference between the signature on the message from Sema versus the signature from LinkedIn is that LinkedIn have a DMARC setup. Okay. So that's the first point, is setting up your technical stuff, or even learning how to communicate this with your customers is probably important. Any questions on this, guys? All right, move on to the second point. The second point is literally learning how building a reputation works with email and having some sort of a warm-up plan. The average of building a reputation every time you start sending is going to be 3 to 6 months. It takes around that much on average for any company to start kind of, giving Google and Outlook and all these guys enough data to learn that you're sending to the right people, your list is good, you don't have high bounce rates, your content is good, because you're building a profile with these guys. So knowing, setting your expectation, I need to consistently send 3 to 6 months to be able to find good results is key. And from a warm-up perspective, when you're sending from a new, let's say you started using VBOUT or MailChimp, you have to understand that the first send or the first couple of sends, you might see an uptick in your deliverability. This is primarily because ESPs do not know yet your patterns, right? There's some sort of a learning curve. So a lot of times we see people send and get high open rates the first one, and then it goes down a bit, and then it flattens, and then gradually, if they're implementing everything right, it goes back up in open rates, right? This is why what we recommend when you first send, don't send high volume immediately. What you can do is chunk up your list to smaller lists, and instead of sending, let's say 10,000 emails or 100,000 emails in 20 minutes, maybe you can break it down and send 1,000 per hour first day, then 2,000 per hour second day for 8 hours, and just let the program do chunking for you on your behalf, right? So the power of thinking about how to do this is probably important. The third thing in the reputation building side is knowing how IPs work, right? So if you're using any servers to send emails, usually there is some IP reputation that's gonna get built, okay? So what that means, if you're sending through an Amazon and you have a specific dedicated IP, that IP is gonna eventually go through all the spam filters. It's gonna have some sort of a feedback. It might get truncated in a spam trap and then get cleaned up again. So all that stuff will resonate on the IP. Now, if you're a small sender, you only have a few thousand emails, you don't need dedicated IPs. So you can be on a shared pool, just like MailChimp, you start with them, they start you on a shared pool. We do the same with clients who have very small volume sending. But if you feel like you're growing, what you can do, you can get a couple of dedicated IPs, and you can use these IPs in conjunction with each other to send out emails. So if one of them get a hit, you swap it out of the pool and you let the other one work. So we built some sort of infrastructure to support that. And it's really key for you to understand how IPs work, because if you have a good reputation on your IP and you have proper sending, the SPF DKIM set up, these are the top issues for a lot of companies not ending up in inboxes. Okay? So chunk sending and increasing gradually is probably something we recommend. And I will show you how do we build this function on VBOUT so you can implement it if you're interested. Another thing here is you're building a reputation not only on a domain, right? So don't be using too many domains and one time you send it from domain A, then you go to another domain. Try to be very consistent when sending out from an email. So stick to one domain, and not only that, stick to an inbox on that domain. So if you want to decide on using, Sean at markery.com, or you want to decide on one subdomain that's a fictitious person in your company. By the way, a lot of companies do that. They created Janet or Michael that do not exist. And they just consistently send from that person. You will get better open rates if you're sending from a real person versus sending from a generic like info at or hello at, right? So these are some of the things to consider, is to build a real person, a real inbox, and stick to that while you're sending. Okay. Now, as we get to a higher volume of sending and deep segmentation, you might want to consider maybe subdomains. Like you see this in the hotel and the reservation industry. Well, they have like marketing dot, marriottchain.com, and then they have reservations dot the marriottchain.com, and emails will go out from different subdomains based on purpose. So that's something probably for higher senders. All right. So that's for learning how building your reputation works and how to have your expectations set up right. Any questions on that, guys? Okay, I don't see any questions, so I'll go ahead and continue. Okay. All right, so the third point is vetting your list properly. And when I say vetting your list, I mean a couple of things. One of them, if you have a purchase list, try your best not to use it. And I know there's a lot of companies, they build their entire business model on getting lists online, sending out bulk emails, and getting response. That method is not gonna work, I would say, in the next 18 months to 2 years. Primarily because the list that you purchased, there's probably another 100 people who have very shitty sending patterns that are recycling the same lists from the same vendor, right? And it's really easy to detect these patterns. I can have any intro-level machine learning guy track the same patterns of recipients from someone who's doing it badly to yours, right? So buying email lists is quite tricky. You have to be very careful doing it. Okay. Another thing on buying lists is that even if, let's say, you go to the best source, and right now I would say Zoom Info are doing a good job in getting good lists, but there's a high chance that security companies are actually creating fictitious inboxes that look completely legitimate. And it could be something like jimmy@vbout.com. And I will purposely put this email in places where only bots and scrapers and people who are doing, data entry will be accessing that email. And anybody who sends an email to that inbox, I will immediately know that was through an automated bot. And then I could put them through my entire system and create a database of bad senders. And there's a whole slew of services that do exactly that, which is why you have to be very careful. We call these the honeypot traps, or whatever is the term. There's also emails that you might buy that haven't been active for the past 5 years. So if you're sending Gmail email that hasn't been open for 5 years, Gmail are going to be like, what the heck is going on, man? You're not a good sender. You're sending an email that hasn't been active for 5 years. Most likely you're a spammer, and this is going to take place in the grading or scoring process. So this is why we say do not buy lists. Try to avoid it as much as you can. And if you end up buying a list from a very trustable source, run them through a scrubbing list first, like a never bounce or something similar, to make sure the bounces are cleaned up. And 2, use very small chunks and not send the entire list. Because if you're sending to 100 sample out of the 1,000, most likely you're gonna get good signals if this is gonna be a good recipient, or the list quality is gonna be good or it's gonna be bad, right? So keep that in mind if you have no option but to buy a list. But at the end of the day, I do say try to ethically and do it yourself, collect them email by email, because it's about quality, not quantity. Second, communicating the purpose of the signups and having the proper consent. And I know this is probably a little bit more strict in parts of the world. Like if you go to Europe, you have to always have consent. You cannot send email to people unless they opt in. Now you have California, the CPA just came into effect in early January. And as you can see, Yeah, these things are following, right? So there's a lot of stuff that a lot of states, United States, going to be compliant. Or it's going to become stricter and stricter when it comes to sending email as we go. So might as well be ready from now. Communicate consent, whether you offer a preferences page for your clients, or whether every once in a while or every year you do an email checkup to say, hey, you know, I just want to make sure you're active. You'd like to continue receiving stuff from us. If you don't, click here, we're going to opt you out. And you can target only the inactive list with that email. That's another example. Okay. So you create a segment of an active list and you can just send them that email once a year. Lastly, on this point, the more data you have, the better. Primarily when you start doing proper segmentation, when you're building automations and you're getting a little more sophisticated in your follow-ups, you want to be able to rely on data that you might have been able to collect from the get-go. And we see a lot of companies, they have databases with like 30 fields, birthdays, anniversaries, last sign updates. These are good data and you should definitely get them into your platform. So if you need them in the future, you can easily segment and say, okay, I'm gonna send an email of the people who the first time they signed up with us was, let's say, a year ago, and I'm gonna send an anniversary campaign. Maybe I wanna do geolocation-based email marketing. And I know these are things that are obvious, guys, but you'd be surprised how many marketing companies, they come to us and they never put enough emphasis on the data or the type of fields that they actually aggregate in that data. Because if you're using a drop-down versus a text field versus a date field versus other types of fields, the operations on these fields when it comes to filtering and segmentation are completely different. So you got to keep that mindset in place as well. Any questions on vetting your lists properly, guys? Cool.
No questions so far, I see.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, number 4 is thinking about what you need to, how you want to format your email. And you're going to see more and more of these, what we call in VBOUT, the naked templates. These are still HTML templates. These are not text. They look like text as if they just came out from your inbox, but they still support HTML. So you can hyperlink, you can embed an image, you can do all that cool stuff. So we call this the naked template. So really thinking about, yes.
Excuse me, I have a question from Jason. He's
Jason,
asking he's asking what lead gen you use if not buying.
Good question, Jason. There's always gonna have to be, there's the organic way and there's the paid way. If you're gonna dump money on lists, most of the time buying lists, you're gonna have to spend a few $1,000s, right? To get a good, decent list. What you can do, you can buy lists and you can create a retargeting campaign for that particular list on Facebook to drive these people on that list. Let's say you bought a purchase list of marketing people and create a retargeting campaign to an offer, and the offer will communicate opt-in to these people, okay? Or maybe you can drop in a pixel, or you can maybe activate browser push notifications. So there's like I would say a cycle that you can try to create beyond just sending them an email. So you buy a list, you spend a little bit on a retargeting campaign or Facebook ad. And if you're creating something like, you know, download the top 20 things you should focus on in email for 2020, right? And that will be the downloadable. And that could be the way you get them into the door. Now, if you don't want to spend buying, you can just take all that money and dump it into a Facebook campaign by itself and target a segment that you can create there. And I know this is probably a little bit more paid ads or paid Facebook, but you can create a segment of people that are interested in, let's say, Gary Vaynerchuk, and they're all about, you know, motivation and how to market yourself and how to use, you know, the commenting on LinkedIn, all that stuff, and create that sort of target audience that will align with your offer and get them through as well to collect the list. There's a lot more to this, Jason, but that's one way to do it. The organic way is to, I would say, just commenting on things, whether it is something on LinkedIn, that you've read and somebody posted something good, you can put a comment and put it in a feedback and drive traffic back. You can do joint email program with some companies if they're open. So let's say we're sending an email to everybody in our list. Maybe we can highlight you as a partner, and we can say, you know, Jason does ABC, and you know, he has an event that we recommend you guys attending, or some sort of a downloadable that he's offering. So to answer your question short, Jason, it's either going to be an organic, where you got to put in the effort in co-marketing, or it's going to be some sort of paid. You acquire a list and you use a Facebook campaign to do it.
So just to, I guess, add more details for my question, the way you're addressing it is you're saying you're building a list using contextual marketing or Facebook ads or whatever, building an audience. But then once you're generating a form with these contacts, you have these are technically qualified leads you're emailing at that point. These are people who are interested. Sure. Whereas if I was going to set up a cold email campaign, like currently, like if I go the organic approach, I'm using something like hunter.io or like those third parties to find emails. Would you even go with a cold email approach, or would you say, like, of course you want to go with the qualified leads first, but is there something that would be catered to cold emails as well, where you're helping us with?
So if I understood your question right, is you're recommending, you're asking me if you can just send them a cold email if you're using some very high qualified lead gen tool like Hunter.io or something similar, Rocket Lead or something like that.
Yeah, instead of buying lists, if I use something like Hunter.io and created my own like list eventually, would the algorithms eventually block me off? Would this even be something you would recommend? Is it even worth investing time into a cold email campaign?
That's a good question. If you gotten those emails right and you use some tool that really qualifies, there's a couple of approaches to this, and I think Sean is with us, who's expert in LinkedIn. But some companies, what they do is they use LinkedIn first, right, to that person, and then what they do is from there they continue the sequence through an email, or they just say, hey, you know, I want to send you something. Can I email you, let's say, more information through LinkedIn? That's one way to do it. I use both. If I'm doing a LinkedIn approach, I'm also emailing the same person because I use some tools, but I email them directly versus blast. I don't do volume. I do very high concentrated email bulk of, let's say, 50 to 100, and I get the response from there versus just doing a bulk. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, if you want to do a bulk, do it in small bulks, not do it in high volume bulk. Okay. And the ramification of sending to 50 people is a lot better than sending to 5,000 people of that list. Does it make sense?
Got it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Yeah, man, it's tricky. So there are some tools that offer sending on your behalf from your Gmail account, right? Because they know if you're sending personal email like you're trying to do, it might be it makes more sense to come up from your Gmail and your Gmail SPF and DKIM and Gmail credentials. And they automate that. But the problem, there's limits per day, it's really low on volume and so on. And there are some other tools like us, we let you do it, but it's set at 50 at bulk or 25 and per hour for an execute 500 a day. And then you can gauge that result. All right, good question, Jason, thank you. So for the email format, always think what kind of format you want to be blasting, right? If you're doing what Jason is doing, or my approach, if let's say I'm speaking to potential partners, I send the naked template. So I do it more stripped out of any content. I basically put some hyperlinks, my signature, and your email, the client that you're using should support this. Even at blast, if you're blasting 500 people, you should be able to send it in this format. If you're using the format of the newsletter, you can just think about the ratio of text to images, because you don't want to send one banner, and I see this a lot, sending one banner that doesn't have any other details is not going to work, right? So it has to be ratio appropriate between images and text. In fact, the more text, the better. And I don't know if you guys have seen those sextortion emails that say, hey, I've seen you, access websites and I hijacked your computer. If you don't send me 5 Bitcoins, I'm going to share it with everyone. Some of you probably gotten these, right? So they were sending text and then they started sending images of that text. So it gets more, it's like a chase between the scanners and the spammers. So with that in mind, images are not to be trusted if they're alone, and proper ratio of text to images is key. Obviously, using the proper font. A lot of times people use fancy fonts and they try to get very sophisticated, not knowing that the end recipient might not support that font on their browser. So if you have something cool and you're very picky about your alignments and the recipient doesn't support it, you might end up with a default font that's going to throw off a big bulk of your email. So using default fonts is key. And finally, obviously, building for responsiveness is important, because more than 50% of open rates across the board are via mobile device. And that's something companies take for granted. They don't build for responsive. Everything we offer on VBOUT is responsive already, and anything you use should be around responsiveness as well. Okay. Lastly, on this point is you have to be keyword spamware, and there's a bunch of things a bunch of tools that let you assess. I actually hyperlinked this to an open blog article that we have. We aggregated, I think, what is it, 800 keywords, George?
It's 500, around 500 keywords.
Okay. So
and we also have a tool. Yeah, sorry.
No, good. I'm just going to open it here. Yeah, so I hyperlinked this for you guys for your reference. It's a tool. You can see what keywords are frowned upon. Sometimes we have no option but to actually use these key terms. But instead of having 20 of them, just try to minimize as much as possible on these key terms that will benchmark negatively with these spam traps or spam filters. Okay. It's never an indication, however. Let's say you have 5 and you cannot exchange these, it's okay. We just try to advise to minimize any keyword spam. And don't use Viagra in your email, and don't use coronavirus anymore, because these are, you have to add coronavirus, George, to your keyword spam soon.
Yeah.
Any questions on formatting the emails and choosing your keywords properly and so on? Awesome. One. All right. Having a sunset policy in place is key. And I'm sorry if somebody was trying to ask a question, you can drop it in the chat. Having sunset policy, guys, is really important. And when I say sunset policy, I mean, kind of getting the engaged segments of your contacts, putting them in a group, and the non-engaged segments of your contacts and putting them in another group. Obviously, there's a lot more in-depth segmentation and things you can do. I'm just talking at the high level. Engaged, opened an email in the last year versus not engaged, never opened an email. Okay. If you're sending 4 emails per month and that's your schedule, you can target the open list every time. And those that haven't opened, you can do many things. You can either just target them once a month to try to reactivate part of that list. So instead of having 10,000 people, 1,000 open 4 times a month, you're just doing it once, because having 9,000 unopens in the SP's world will actually impact you negatively in your reputation. So this is why we say it's the age of engagement email marketing. Segment your lists, and those that never opened anything in the past year, I would say either try to export them, try to retarget them on a Facebook ad to reactivate them somehow, or just suppress them altogether. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the unopened email are hurting your reputation, literally. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was saying that another thing that you can even send them email, an engagement campaign. Hey, we haven't seen you for a while. If you need to either keep subscribed, you can, and then if they don't respond to the email, you can give them maybe 7 days, and after 7 days, you can unsubscribe them yourself, giving them a resubscribe button in case they wish to resubscribe.
So there's a couple of ways you can do it, and you can automate this whole process, obviously, using the email tool that you use or the automation that you use. So there's also the hard bounces versus the soft bounces, inactive. So usually the hard bounce, that means it's a no-no, right? It's an email that doesn't exist. It's a server that blocked you. You might want to hard or suppress them versus just trying to reattempt resending. Soft bounces, these are emails that bounce, but they are still okay. So they might be just full at the moment, and the server is unavailable at the moment. So what we do at VBOUT is we attempt delivery 3 times before we suppress them. So upon the third send or the third campaign, if they're still being, returned back as a soft bounce, we actually just put them in a suppression list.
Richard, I have a question from Sama.
Okay.
She's asking if you mean that it's not advisable to write coronavirus in the body of the email, because she's thinking of starting an email with the precautions for April even.
It's up there almost on the list, primarily because the amount of spam on that keyword is outweighing the amount of good content. And as that's going to be even developing, oh, buy this Corona mask kit, buy this Corona cleanup kit, buy this. I'm getting tons of these, and I do monitor closely all this stuff. It's still okay. Don't get scared right away. We got enough panic of the coronavirus itself. But it's eventually going to be on the list. That's my own guesstimate, I would say. If you want to send it out, go ahead and do. But honestly, it's becoming almost like the GDPR emails, if you guys remember. Email that everybody sent and nobody wants to open. So if you want to send it out, you can go ahead and do it. Because you are actually, what you do is really important, and it brings people together, right? So there's a relevance there, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry. Just send it, and if people are opening it and then clicking through, because these are 2 types of engagements, right? Opening the email, clicking through the email, and even keeping the email open for a while. This is another engagement of the reading length of the email. Are the 3 metrics that will send the right signals to the ASPs. Okay.
Maybe I think that maybe also Sama can A/B test it in the subject line, and the variant A she can put Corona, and variant B she can maybe put like a virus, and then compare
COVID-19 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, actually. Maybe I'll just use virus.
I don't know if virus is on the list, George, is it?
I think, yeah, I have to check to make sure.
I'm just kidding. Don't overthink it, Sama. I mean, key terms themselves alone, they're not the main factor. The main factor is the SPF and DKIM and the DMARC policy. Second is the reputation of the IP. Then the content of the email itself, if it's relevant. The quality of the list. These are in this order, literally. So don't overthink it. If you just have a coronavirus in there, it's not a big deal, but it's getting abused as we speak from spammers. So that's going to eventually hit the spam filters. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Finally, guys, is the make sure you are spam compliant. And what I'm going to share with you maybe is relevant. You can't really see it here, but every country has a different compliance law, and we have a calendar or chart that we've compiled for you. So in the United States, you are allowed to do cold outreach. There's no opt-in required. You have to include your company email on the bottom, including address, phone number, and you have to have an unsubscribe option, which should be fulfilled immediately upon clicking. Okay, whether it's an unsubscribe or a preference, because you have to give them a way to get out of your emails. Other countries like Canada, you're not allowed to send cold emails. And some people don't know this, they get in trouble. Right? Europe, forget it, you can't do anything. In Latin America, still a little bit open. You can send cold outreach, no opt-in required. So knowing these spam rules, depending on who you're working with and your target segment, is important to protect yourself. Now, when I say protect yourself, I'm literally mean there's actually $42,000 plus fine per email in the United States. If somebody decided to be an asshole, technically, they could say, you know what, this company is sending us an email. There's no address. There's no information on the bottom. I'm going to try to go after them. It's possible. Okay. So just be very careful when working with email, communicating the details of the company and the opt-out option, and obviously maintaining a proper suppression list, because at the end of the day, the bad emails should be suppressed. Unsubscribed should be suppressed. Hard bounces, complaints, all that stuff should be in their own suppression list. Do not delete your suppression lists, because some people re-opt in the same email list again. They do manual upload, they do all that manual stuff. And you don't want to delete records that have a history of bad recipients and then resend them again, right? So maintain that suppression list. All right. So these are the 6 things. Any questions on that before I dive into the email AMP?
Yeah, Richard, Andreas is asking about if the high intensity sequences hurt your reputation more than it helps. And he's talking about, for example, maybe those sending 15 emails a day once you sign up to a high intent landing page.
15 emails a day is an access. No, I don't care what you're sending. It's really an access. I would say 15 emails per day is too much, unless there's some scenario that is really unique, Andreas. Don't overflood emails. You know why? Because the more emails gets unopened, the more likely you're gonna get a hit, right? You just want to send the right email with the right frequency and the right content to drive a click through or drive an open. You know what I mean? I really doubt that sending 15 emails for the same recipient, if that's what you're doing, is gonna trigger 15 opens. Unless I'm wrong, I don't
know. Jason, yeah, we will send you the link. You're asking about the link for the country's compliance laws. We have it, and we can send you in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. So we have that. We have a toolkit on VBOUT, guys. I really encourage you to take advantage of it. So if you go to our website and you go to our resources,
free tools.
Yeah, the free tools. There's the canned spam compliance by country. There's the spam words checker. And this one is gold, actually. These are inspirations from popular brands. We got it from another tool called email. I forgot. We aggregated from ourselves, from online, and we get it from another tool. So you can literally just go in and search what other companies, let's say Dropbox. And let's see, here we go. So there's something you can inspire from. You can copy that email, plug it in on your content, and just, of course, change the brand and stuff. So you can get some inspirations from these. Pretty cool tool, actually. All right. All right, guys, sorry, I just jumped off here. Any other questions on this before I jump into the AMP?
No, I'm not so far.
Okay. Cool. So let's talk about email AMP. This is actually, a lot of people are asking us, did you support it? What's email AMP, right? So you guys might have heard of it. It's the effort by Google to make emails more interactive, right? Emails are still the dumbest thing on the internet when it comes to how we can interact with them. Sad story, but it's true. So how do we get emails from being this dull, kind of very silly, non-interactive thing to an interactive, almost like a semi-web page within the email? Is the effort that Google has put in. And this is one example, which is like making something click through to a subpage, which is like a Pinterest example. Another one on the right side here, you see it, it's like an e-commerce. So you click, it takes you to a product customization, and then you actually can add some things to the cart. Another example is just a simple carousel. So when you click it within the email, it shows you another content. And finally, I don't know if you can see it, but the last one is a submission of data. So you can actually submit a form directly right from here. Okay. There's a few other examples like carousels, I said it, opt-in buttons, and few simple things. The only problem with this technology is that it's not supported by all ESPs. So if you're sending an email, I think Gmail is, and not all Gmails, by the way, some Gmail clients are not supporting it still. So it's not universal on Gmail themselves. This is why it's very risky. So if you're gonna send an email that supports that technology, you're actually gonna have to think about what's the percentage of people that are using the right email client versus the actual others like Outlook and these guys that do not actually support it. And I did hear that Outlook supports it, or versions of Outlook, but I've tested it and it hasn't worked for me. That's just my own personal experience with it. It's not easy to set up, and because you're gonna have to have a fallback of what happens, you're gonna have to put a lot of effort to learn how to set it up. And what's the fallback in case the engine doesn't support it? Do I just default on this design? Do I just have like a different design? So there's a lot of thinking that goes into it. So instead of having an email set up in 30 minutes, it might take you a couple of days to actually set up an email campaign. It's really difficult. It's not supported by most email marketing clients. So if you're using an email marketing platform that doesn't support it, actually all that stuff you're doing from the list scrubbing, suppression lists, sunset policies is really not going to apply. And finally, tracking in those emails need to be approached slightly differently. So it's not only about open and clicks. Now you're talking about open, internal clicks, scrolling. So there's a lot of new elements of tracking that are not quite figured out. So is it nice? It's beautiful. I think it's a genius move. It's still too early because it's a lack of support and a lack of technologies that's going to enable you to do this at scale very fast. You've probably seen a lot of these companies like the booking companies and the travel and hotels. They might be spending a lot of money on this because they could afford it. As a small companies, I think it's still a bit early. Unless that's something you want to specialize in and offer to your clients, it might not be the right option for you now. Okay. Any questions on this, guys?
No questions for now.
Awesome. A couple more slides here and we'll wrap up. I think, you know, from my perspective, when I speak to companies doing email, I always say, think outside the box. It's not only about email anymore, right? And thinking omni-channel light, just touching or reaching the client on different channels beyond email is a way to actually approach your campaigns. So what is omni-channel? A lot of companies make it, or marketers made it seem very difficult. I'm actually not going to do that. It's simply you on one side reaching your contact or your lead on the other side via different means, whether it is via an email, an SMS, browser push, retargeting, chat, an app. So being able to leverage any of these in combination with each other is what I call omni-channel. Okay. People can get more sophisticated with it and say you gotta link your internal POS system with an external, online commerce and bring it back. That's all great, but I'm just talking from the outreach perspective between you and your contacts. Okay, and there's a big connect on how you can reach them. So email is still highly driving force, but maybe people are not ready to give you an email. Maybe opting into a browser push today could be a gateway for them to eventually opt into an offer and fill out their information. And we use this with some e-commerce companies, but we don't ask people for emails on the get-go. We just give a browser push notification, and then we send browser push updates of new products and discounts and stuff like that. And that by itself eventually drives traffic back. So it's not an email, it's a lot more simple than email. So go think about omni-channel. And honestly, the benefits are the more channels, the more insights. So if you know that people open their emails at 5 p.m. and their SMS at 2 and their browser push at 8, now you have so much data that you can create some sort of predictive modeling depending on the system. Personalizing the experience from SMS to a browser push to a landing page to an email is super powerful, and people can see through that, right? So if you have a first name of a person across the board, it just means that you've put in the effort. It increases the click-through rates. There's no doubt about that. If you combine all these channels, it creates a consistent messaging as well, so you can reach the customers faster. And finally, anybody that deploys more than one channel, they see an uptick in revenue when they properly implement them using omni-channel. And within VBOUT, this is like a quick journey. If you, let's say, abandon a cart, or someone of your clients abandon a cart, you can send them an email, an hour later an SMS, and maybe an hour later a browser push notification, and then drop them into a retargeting campaign. Right? So this sequence, guys, is super easy to build. Like, don't be scared to go out, pick a platform of your choice. Obviously, I would love you to pick VBOUT, but any platform of your choice, you should be able to do this without spending tons of effort and time, right? Just knowing what you need to build. Yeah, so that's the presentation. Anybody has any questions? I'm open for a few minutes if you guys want to ask anything. George, any questions?
No, not for now. And meanwhile, guys, if any one of you has any questions, of course, as Richard said, you can feel free to put it in the chat. But I would like to also tell you that we have a blog post of what Richard talked about. We included all the practices that may boost your email deliverability and how you can avoid spam. So I can send you also in the chat. I know maybe Richard is going to send you the presentation and the recording, but this can be an added value for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, George. And by the way, guys, I'll share this presentation with you. Feel free to take it, repurpose it, give us a little credit at the end, and use it for your own. If you're doing some sort of a workshop or you have clients you're working with as an agency, feel free to repurpose our content any way that you want. We'd love for you to spread this knowledge in email, because email is, I wouldn't say it's impossible. It's just becoming increasingly hard for a regular person who's running an operation on a day-to-day to do it, right? This is why expertise in this is key, but it's still fairly simple. So I'll share with you the slides, of course, in the video. But other than that, I'm just gonna take 5 minutes to show you how you can do that chunk sending and the A/B testing. Are you guys interested? If this is not an interest for you, you can definitely drop off. But if you would like to see it in the next 5 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and show you, and also show you a little bit inside the email campaign, how you can create a very basic template that's gonna probably get you the best conversions based on what we've covered. Okay. All right, so this is the VBOUT interface. Starting a campaign is super simple. Technically, you can just say, this is the Meetup test for my own reference. And maybe I have two hypotheses in my mind of what the subject line should include, right? So when I do A/B testing, this gives me what variable I'm gonna test. So my hypothesis is subject line A, which could be, boost your email open rates with this content. And then another hypothesis from my team could be, hey, and then drop in someone's name in here, because personalizing subject lines is really, really important, right, guys? Always think about that. So I can do something like this. Hey, John, how is your email open rate? All right, very easy. From name, I'm gonna choose a company. So I'm gonna do Rich from VBOUT. As I said, person versus regular random marketing ad. And now I'm gonna test my segment. I'm gonna break it down, or tell VBOUT to break it down for me to 3 different lists. So what I have in front of me, I have list A. This is list A. Let's take a sample of 1,000. If my list is 1,000 people, I'm gonna break it down to the first. Let's do 10% to make numbers even. 100 people out of the 1,000 are gonna get this version right here. The other 100, which is version B, they're gonna get this. And then I'm gonna tell the system, I would like you to determine which one of these two gets the best open rates for the next 3 hours. So this is where I have a delay, or maybe even put in like a 4-hour delay, right? Obviously, the more you put in, the better, because you want to let people open emails. And especially nowadays, people have email hygiene habits. So they might want to only check their emails, 3 times a day or twice a day. So keep that in mind, because you might not get open rates if you only wait for 1 hour, right? Now, after 4 hours, the system is going to detect which version of these A or B one, and according to the best open rates, it's going to send it to the remainder 800 people. Okay. Now, you can test more than subject lines. You can actually test content of the email. So maybe an email, you can put the coronavirus in it, and another email, you can put the COVID, and test which one gets you more click-through rates. So I would say the content variable, winning variable should be probably the click-through rates and not the open rates, because it's different body of the content. So people won't see the difference unless they open it, right? Just common sense. So A/B testing is super simple, nothing to be afraid of, guys. It's literally a couple of configurations, and it makes you look like a rocket scientist in front of your team. Any questions on A/B testing before I do chunk sending?
No, everything is fine.
Okay, thank you, George.
Welcome.
The second part is the chunk sending. This is having a warm-up plan for your own sake. So when you're starting to send new, or you have a new list you're bringing on board, and you want to be very conservative about targeting this list in the beginning, what you can do is you can use the chunk sending method to actually break it down, right? So you can say, have a start time from, I'm going to start this campaign at, let's say, 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to run it only until 2 p.m. And instead of sending 1,000 people at once, I'm just going to target 50 people on the first day. I want to be very conservative about that. And I'm going to put 100% increase next day. So next day, I'm going to target 100 people per hour. Okay. So to summarize what's going on here, I have a start date at 9. It wraps up at 2. So what is it? So that's 5 executions, more or less. So it's going to execute 250 daily, right? Tomorrow, it's going to execute 500 daily. And the third day is what's going to complete the entire campaign. Okay. Now, why am I doing this? There's obviously a couple of benefits for this. One, if I'm bringing on new lists and I'm not sure of the quality, I can immediately tell from the first hour send how this is going to look like. If I'm getting bounce rates immediately, complaints, maybe I can even pause the campaign at that point, right? If I'm sending across the board over a few days, I'm probably going to get the best average open rates across the board. And has been proven with our clients. Over thousands of campaigns have been sent using this technology already, right? This is like a 4-month-old process that we built. Lastly, you're sending the ISPs the signals that you're not automatically blasting everyone. You're actually increasing your warm-up process, so you can give the IP you're building your reputation on, as well as your inbox, a better reputation. Okay, so it has multiple dimensions for why it's beneficial. I really think it's a good technology to leverage if you want to do chunk sending and have warm-up process in mind. Okay. Any questions on chunk sending?
No.
Awesome. Finally, on the design process, a lot of people overthink design. Honestly, the best performing templates are either those naked templates or the templates that revolve around one call to action. Okay, and I'm just going to keep this very simple. Dropping in, let's say, a layout, one box. I'm going to put my logo at the top. I'm going to put a heading, paragraph, and maybe a footer. Sorry, guys, I have a delay here. I can drop in a footer. So I'll go back. And in VBOUT, we have all design options, blocks of design. We have elements. For the sake of this, I'm just going to choose one. Okay, that's it. All I need to do is just swap my this with my logo. I don't want to put in logo, it's okay. The only thing is I have to think mobile friendly. meaning I don't want a big banner at the top because if people opening on mobile, I would like to definitely see the content without scrolling too much. But at the same time, I want to plug in an image because I want people to activate the tracking pixel, which is an image, right? That's really tricky. So not putting an image is fine, but when people do not put images inside the content, a lot of times people don't activate the view image, and then the tracking pixel cannot detect and open. So this is why we recommend at least maybe one media item that's a banner or a picture of some sort or a logo, right? So think about that. One call to action, make it as clear as possible, of course. Okay. And think really clearly, where do you want to hyperlink this, right? Maybe you should hyperlink it to a web page. Maybe you want to hyperlink it to a landing page on VBOUT or other. Maybe you just want to pre-populate an email address to the body and embody message body of the content. So technically, this is key for determining where this is linking. And I advise, if you have a couple of call to actions or you have to scroll, try to make them both link to the same thing. You're gonna get the best results most of the time. And lastly, on the bottom, you see all this stuff like the preferences and now subscribe and address. These are always, you have to include them on the footer of the email, unfortunately, for your own sake, okay?
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, Jim has a question about the landing page. Sure, Jim, go ahead.
All right, so basically, I guess it's a philosophical question. I've heard some people say, every campaign should have a landing page, blah, 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 and other people say, that's ridiculous, just deep link to the proper content on your website. What's your feeling?
Love it. I would say there's at least one benefit in our case in deploying landing pages. We can personalize the landing page with the person's name and details if they click from an email to a landing page. That's the first benefit I can think about. You can isolate the tracking if you're really campaign driven and you just want to get assets for a campaign, and the asset's going to include an email template, a landing page, and you want to really in the landing page have one thing only. So let's say it's downloadable. You can easily create this and not think about what you need to show you an example. Removing the top bar item, the footer links, because the most successful landing pages right now literally just have one call to action, one form, one button. It might be a little bit difficult to do that if you're driving them to your website. That's just my concern about using a website.
Okay.
Of course, both of these apply, but from conversion perspective, sorry about that. I would definitely look at isolating the entire experience. Email has one call to action, landing page has one call to action, and get them to convert. That's what I advise.
Okay.
And the good thing about landing pages, Jim, is that you can actually guide them from page 1 to page 2. So if somebody fills out this form, you can easily redirect them to another landing page, which maybe have a little bit of the offer. And that second page that has more of the offer, maybe it has a book a consultation on the bottom, right? So taking them through that sequence, independent of your dev team or any developer building the stuff for you, I think is what makes landing pages in that extent more valuable, because you're more nimble. You can do this in a matter of minutes versus having to hire a developer, and you know what I mean?
Right. Well, thank you.
Pleasure. And finally, you can do send testing for yourself. You can do spam scoring here. And you can even test how this looks like on different devices. So we have like a litmus test, which you can deploy to see how this looks on like an iPhone versus an Outlook and so on. The last thing on the email, guys, is the UTM campaign. So if you're using your Google Analytics properly, you can associate some UTM tracking right within here. So any tracking that goes from VBOUT to your website through an email, you can actually put attribution back to a source and a term and a content. So that's something to also think about when you're launching an email. Okay. Awesome. All right, guys, I think we can wrap up here. We spoke a little bit over the 7 o'clock. I'm wondering, what do you guys think about this online event? Was this helpful? Did you guys get enough value out of it? Would love to hear your feedback.
I thought it was good. I like the time that you put into the sort of networking piece. That to me is a big missing in a lot of these events. It's smart.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jim. Jim, right?
Yep.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have any feedback on this format? Maybe we can do them more often. I mean, we're gonna take it by ear on the next event, but
I was just going to say that having attended a lot of the in-person meetings, you did a great job of kind of carrying over the same spirit into a digital format. I didn't know if that networking piece was still going to be there. And just to echo what Jim said, it's usually not there in a lot of online things. It's usually more of like, informational webinar. And I think you did a great job of kind of combining the two. Especially kind of letting us all talk. I realize that can kind of get out of hand with certain participant levels, but definitely moderated well.
thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And I think you know that making this like a roundtable conversation is always what I strive for, right? I want you guys to participate. Everybody has some awesome feedback all the time. So bringing all that to the table is what make these events best. Anybody has more suggestions? Great. I think we are good. So what I'll do, I'm going to share the presentation. I'll share the video with you guys. And if you have any suggestions for the upcoming event topic, I'm all ears. Thinking to do something about around lead generation and how to drive traffic and leads, perhaps to email, to landing page, and capture more leads effectively. Do you guys think that's a good topic?
That sounds good to me. Lead gen's always important, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Open for any suggestions later on. You guys have my email. It's rich@vbout.com. Please feel free to email me. I read every single email. Sometimes I don't reply fast enough, but I do read them. Rich@vbout.com.
And Jason is suggesting to have a poll for the next topic.
Sure, Jason, I think I do have some suggestions from people. I always give priority for people who are joining, so if you want, just put in the topic suggestion in the comment of the meetup. That usually works pretty well, and we get notified and stuff. I don't want to bombard people with polls and whatnot. So if you put it right here, you go to the meetup, and on the bottom, just put in what you suggest. I'll get the notifications and I'll reach out to you. Okay. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. I really thank every one of you for taking the effort and your evening time to attend. This tells me a lot that you're interested in learning. And I look forward for the upcoming event, whether we do it online, we do it physical in New York City, or we do a combination of those. So again, thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next meetup.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.